Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AMCHAM's bi-monthly ESG Talk Series. I'm Una Claire Kim, Director of Government and Corporate Affairs at AMCHAM, and I'm very pleased to kick off today's webinar. One of AMCHAM's key priorities this year is to promote ESG best practices in Korea. In this context, the ESG Committee drives the important ESG thought leadership at AMCHAM by fostering dialogue between the US and Korea in the ESG space. And I'd like to thank our ESG Committee co-chairs from 3M, Dow, and P&G for their passion and commitment to this important initiative. This morning, 3M will share its journey and best practices in driving sustainability excellence throughout their businesses. James Falteisek, Senior Vice President for 3M Asia, and our ESG Committee co-chair will introduce today's speakers, Gayle Schueller, Chief Sustainability Officer at 3M, and Jun Lee, Sustainability Leader for Asia at 3M. Following the speakers' presentations, we'll have an audience Q&A, so please feel free to submit your questions by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Now, Jim, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Una, and thank you all for joining this morning. I believe we have a pretty significant audience today on a relatively short invitation notice, so very happy to have you all join us today. You know, at 3M, we talk about our purpose being unlocking the power of people, ideas, and science to reimagine what's possible. And our purpose is to improve lives by helping solve the world's greatest challenges. And I start with that today because I think it absolutely mirrors what we're trying to do from an ESG perspective, not just at 3M, not just with our AMCHAM Korea ESG Committee, but hopefully as a collective group of businesses. So I think that aligns very well with what we're going to talk about today, where Gayle and Jun will give an overview of some of the efforts of 3M ESG from both a global and a Korea perspective, where we'll talk about a little bit about corporate governance, which I think is an interesting piece that we haven't talked a lot about from our series of seminars to date. So I think that will be interesting and may prompt some questions, but we'll also talk about some of our specific sustainability initiatives. So, and Una mentioned that, this is, our culture is engaging and collaborative and conversational. So I'm hopeful that we will generate a lot of questions for our speakers today. So with that, I will do a quick introduction. First, our second speaker will be Jun Lee. Jun is our Asia Sustainability Leader for 3M. And Jun has a lot of business experiences both in Korea and within Asia. So Jun is going to talk specifically about some of our efforts in Korea. So Jun will be our second speaker. First will be Dr. Gayle Schueller. Gayle is expert at this, so I'm very excited to have Gayle with us today. Gayle has been a colleague for many years, and I've learned so much about sustainability and business from Gayle over the years. So I know you will all be excited for that as well. Gayle has a broad experience, and you probably read that in the biography, a lot of new product development experience, both from a hands-on perspective as well as a leadership perspective, has worked internationally, had an MD job in Mexico, and has been our Senior Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer for a few years now, for I think about 3 years or so. Gayle can answer that question if it's important that anyone understand. But I'm very excited to have Gayle with us, and without further ado, I will turn it over to Gayle to introduce 3M Sustainability and ESG. Welcome, Gayle.
Thanks so much, Jim. Jun, would you mind pulling up the slides and we'll talk from there? Sustainability is a really important subject for 3M and something that we've been leaning into for a long time, whether you call it ESG or corporate responsibility or how you approach it. Having the wherewithal of a large global company to really try to make a positive impact in the world is what we're aiming at. And it's really about that that promise that Jim was mentioning about applying science to really make a difference in the world's greatest challenges and improve lives. So it's an honor to join you here with June and with Jim today. Next slide, please. When you think about 3M, I'll just remind you just a little bit here that we're quite a diverse company, arguably the most innovative, diverse materials company in the world. We started with our humble beginnings in sandpaper and still sell that today through our safety and industrial channels to a broad range of companies around the world, ranging from transportation and electronics, from 51 different technology platforms that we mix and match along the way. They range from abrasives and adhesives that you may think of as our traditional foothold to things like optical materials and to sustainable design and to a broad range of topics. So we really appreciate those. So we really appreciate that breadth and action along the way. What we focus on is then we have those technology areas, we apply them to help improve lives across these 4 different business groups, sharing all along the way. Next slide, please. So when we look at sustainability externally, there has never been a more important time. I mentioned that 3M has been at this for decades. We published our first sustainability report in 1990 with public goals, and we've been reporting on those on an annual basis ever since. We are delighted to let you know that in about a month and a half, we're going to be publishing our Global Impact Report. That's our new name for our sustainability report, in conjunction with our corporate proxy. That's in part to better align between the financial and non-financial reporting. So you can look forward to that. It does make it a tricky time to be presenting because we have our data coming up soon, and we're talking about data that in this presentation, data that's from 2021. Even though we have the preliminary data for 2022, we're looking at doing our external quality controls and auditing right now. But externally, there's been an increasing momentum that has been accelerating rapidly in just the last few years. 3 key areas where we're seeing a lot of focus and initiative all around the world are shown on this slide. First, it's about net zero, and particularly around greenhouse gas emissions. How do you get to having a company that's really delivering more than it's taking? How do you get to reducing your emissions on your own footprint, on the footprint that you create when you're sourcing energy, and on the footprint that you create through sourcing and through purchasing raw materials, and then to use of your customers' your products by your customers. This is something we take really seriously at 3M, and I spend a lot of my time exploring both our map and a path on how to get there, as well as how we can partner with others to further reduce and innovate in this space. I'm proud of 3M's progress in this area. I'll tell you more about some goals and things we have going on. I'll save that for a minute. Energy is another critical area. It's for many companies, and 3M is included. Energy is a very important piece of your footprint, and particularly the rise of renewable energy. The way renewable energy is shifted from being barely a measurable part of the grid to single digits and now double digits parts of the grid in many, many locations. The cost effectiveness of renewable energy compared to conventional fossil fuel sourced energy, particularly as it's being brought in new. And then the shift that's going on to really advance these efforts. And then overall, we are seeing an increased amount of regulations. The EU is undoubtedly in the main lead on regulatory challenges, but also we see it happening across the United States, many countries introducing not only advanced expectations for reporting, not also phase outs of materials, phase outs of approaches, requirements for recyclability, requirements for product passports to go from one country to another, and the expectations just keep rising all around the world. So when we look at this, this is something that one of the reasons I love this space is we face these things together, and so often it's a great opportunity for groups like AMCHAM to bring together companies for a common purpose to really address critical topics like net zero, like energy, and like the broad regulations we see around the world. Next slide, please. So at 3M, when we think about sustainability, we really align with external types of definitions. We align with the commitment for the United Nations to come forward with the Brundtland Commission, the definition that sustainable development is development that meets the needs of today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. It's that intersection between environmental stewardship and social responsibility and economic success that makes all the difference. And one of my personal favorites is the way that the UN's SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals, all 17 of them, come together looking at some of the world's greatest challenges and how they come together in the sustainability space to really make a difference for people around the world. So at 3M, we map those across efforts that we have going around our businesses, but we also use them when we're collaborating with others in different parts of our customer group. Next slide, please. So with that in mind, around a definition for sustainability, 3M has a strategic sustainability framework that we use to think about our key efforts in the sustainability space. And it's all about helping to apply science to improve lives and lead and innovate for a more sustainable future. We've decided that with basics from our materiality study and interviews externally, as well as with people from within the company, that science is really the best place where 3M can make an important difference, is applying science and innovation to really improve lives through addressing science to advance a global circular economy, science for climate to both address mitigation and adaptation needs, and then science for communities to really help bring people together who can innovate and solve these challenges, because this isn't something we turn back on. This is something that we lean into. This is an effort of how we can make a really positive impact in the world, how we can address the challenges we face. And 3M is committed to working with others through science to make a difference. Next slide, please. So at the beginning, Jim talked about the concept of governance and how we go through our corporate governance process. 3M's been at this for a long time. I think we were first initiating in the space in the mid-1970s, but more recently we've become more serious about this. And we have key efforts of senior leaders across the company. We have people like Jun who participate as leaders for sustainability on our geographic level around the world. We have people who are leaders for each of our businesses that I mentioned at the beginning, whether it's safety and industrial, transportation and electronics, healthcare or consumer businesses. We have sustainability leaders for each of those, as well as sustainability leaders with key areas of expertise, whether it's our operational piece, whether it's our external engagement piece, or how we engage our portfolio and invent our new products. All of these have sustainability experts positions in our company. Now, when we go forward from a leadership perspective, we participate in reviews and ensuring that we are doing the right things. We have a corporate Environmental Health and Safety Committee, or EHS committee, that helps address our stewardship. We have a top executive management committee that includes our CEO, our chief financial officer, and several other members of our most senior leadership team that forms our environmental responsibility and sustainability committee internal to the company. These leaders meet on a monthly basis. I present to them pretty much every time about things that are going on in the sustainability space. And we have some fantastic discussions that I'd be happy to share more with you if you have questions. Then finally, just a few years ago, we formed, actually by 3M's bylaws, by law, we have to have four committees within our board of directors. And we wanted to make sure that this concept of sustainability was woven in more tightly. And we actually restructured our board of directors committees to form a Science, Technology, and Sustainability Committee. So this is a member of our senior leaders on our board of directors. These are people who are former CEOs, CFOs, leaders today in big companies who really have great insights and can help guide us. And so from an external board perspective, we have our STSC committee, and we present to them on a regular basis as well. So very good governance, very strong governance, reviewing everything from policies and practices that we're putting in place, trends, and making sure that we understand and are aligned on how we see those trends, how they impact us. And fundamentally, they're also involved on whenever we set a goal for the company, a public goal, we want to make sure that we have the math, we understand the path to get there, what it means from an investment perspective, what it means from projects perspective, what it means from resources and skill sets. Very critical that all up and down this chain of governance, we have participation. Thank you. Next slide. So, as I mentioned, we've been setting sustainability goals and publishing results on them annually since 1990. Our current main set of goals was established in 2015 for maturity in 2025. But we know that within that time frame, things evolve, things change. One example is that we had a commitment to have 25% of our global electricity come from renewable sources. We made that commitment in 2015, but by 2018, we had already achieved it. So we leaned forward and we made a bigger commitment, 50% by 2025. And this is a spoiler alert for the report that we'll be publishing in March. We've already achieved that 50%. So we need to lean forward, we need to go bigger. That's why in 2021, we leaned forward and made bigger goals around our carbon footprint reduction. We had already at that point reduced our absolute carbon footprint, scope 1 and scope 2, over 70% since 2002. We made a commitment to reduce it a further 50% by 2030, 80% by 2040, and achieve carbon neutrality for scope 1 and 2 by 2050. At the same time, we knew that the investments that were necessary because of that mapping of our plan and our path and our math that went into it, we knew that very often the same investments to help reduce carbon footprint were also critical to help us address our water footprint. So whether it's about installing state-of-the-art technology for water purification or reducing our water footprint as we borrow water from the places where we work, those were important investments that we made starting back in 2019, and we'll be delighted to share more progress on those. We also announced our first ever commitment for a plastics goal, and this is that we would reduce our dependence on virgin fossil-based plastics by 125 million pounds. That's nearly 57,000 metric tons by 2025. So we've been leaning forward and adding in these new goals at the same time building on goals that we set back in 2015. Next slide, please. So we have more going on in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion, about our global diversity footprint, about engaging STEM education, and investing in opportunities for diversity and investing areas. It looks like maybe I should move on to Korea and the subjects there. Would you like me to turn it over to Jun at this point?
Okay, I'm Jun. I'm Asia Sustainability Leader. So I want to share the outstanding progress in the Korea perspective. First, I would like to get you to know about 3M manufacturing site in Korea. As you can see the location through the map, we have 2 manufacturing sites in Naju and Hwaseong city of Korea. Naju plant, which was established in 1990, has been manufacturing a wide range of industrial products, including adhesive tapes, medical, consumer products, and glass bubble. Specifically, glass bubble and some industrial adhesive tapes are helping customers commit their sustainability goals with key features including lightweight and solvent-free. On top of that, we don't use solvent during producing adhesive tapes, so we also contribute to low carbon future. Here are the key 3M adhesive families that use solvent-free adhesive coating. There are several ways to make tapes: solvent-based, or water-based, or solvent-free. Many of our tapes are made with solvent-free adhesive coating process that doesn't use solvent or water. The benefit with solvent-free include no emission of solvent, no need for solvent recovery, which is an energy-intensive process. As one of the sustainable related products in 3M, 3M glass bubble, which has been produced since 2006 in Naju plant, helps our key customers commit their sustainability goal with less carbon emission, with reducing the weight of airplane and cars, and giving us better overall fuel economy or battery range. Our second manufacturing site, Hwaseong plant, which was established in 2008, has been producing personal protection equipment like respirator, which has contributed to tackling the COVID-19 during the pandemic period, and insulate sound absorber and the LCD film. 3M dual brightness enhancement film helps customers who use mobile display and LCD recycling light and bring a brighter view to all view in front of the device. And whether it's plugged in or running on the battery power. In addition to product perspective, 3M manufacturing site made concerted effort to commit our sustainability goal, including reduction of greenhouse gas emission, energy saving, and waste reduction. By applying science and state-of-the-art technology, 3M expected to bend the curve of our carbon emission, aiming for 100% carbon neutrality in each operations by 2050. 3M Korea improved the energy efficiency by $440K last year through installing advanced technologies. And we doing energy saving campaign. All manufacturing sites have been making collective action to engage employees to save energy usage, which was relentlessly consumed in the production line. As for clean air, in order to improve air quality and reduce energy usage, we installed external dust collector consisting of cartridge filter and carbon filter to make product line clean and save energy consumption. Newly installed high performance dust collector provide a clean production environment, reducing clean time and productivity, improving facility downtime, and improving air conditioner performance. Clean air filtrated from the new dust collector is not discharged to the outside, but returned to the work site, contributing to the saving of air conditioner energy. Dust or fiber accumulated in electronic components, including motors, wires, connectors, panel rooms, and etc., could cause an explosion due to dust, but the introduction of high-performance dust collector eliminated problematic issues and kept safe from such explosion. The 3M Korea continued building on our long-standing commitment to environment pillar in line with ESG bold goals, including zero landfill, waste reduction, 100% sustainable value commitment, reducing dependence on single-use plastics. Our manufacturing site reduced to 3,000 tons of water usage, which is more than 12% improvement to the last year, through improving cooling tower water spray method and preventing leakage of fire extinguisher waters. And with installation of state-of-the-art purification technology, respirator production line recycled up to 80% of used water usage last year. To achieve these new goals and advance circular economy, 3M is innovating new solutions for product and packaging materials and design according to the extended producer responsibility regulation. These solutions will use recycled content and bio-based plastics and ultimately work to decrease our overall plastic use. We eliminated 100% PVC packaging material and marked recyclability grade on the product in line with the local regulation. 3M set a high bar for itself regarding environmental, health, and safety. It expects the same from its supplier. 3M has a formal process as part of the 3M Supplier Responsibility Code. The 3M Sustainability Code outlines 3M's basic expectation for our suppliers. Yeah, thank you for the Korea outstanding achievement in our manufacturing site. I'm happy to answer your question. Yeah, turn over to Jim.
Awesome, thank you, Jun, and thank you, Gayle. And I think we've had a couple of questions already roll in, and I think there will be some, hopefully, some good conversation. So maybe I will kick us off, and I think Gayle, this is one of the things that I've talked a lot about from a governance perspective is transparency. And I think that's an important piece of a shift that I see from an ESG and certainly a governance perspective. And could you maybe comment a little bit about 3M's approach to our results and how public we are with them and how we look at that? And Jun, maybe there's some slides that would support some of this answer in particular. I think maybe like slide 9, I'm guessing, but take it away, Gayle.
Maybe we'll look at slide 9. With 3M and with the reporting that we do, we think it's really important to be sharing our progress in clear and transparent ways. So that's why when we report on our progress year on year, we show those results. And this is just an example of some of the highlights from 2021. And we have 19 goals that we set publicly and that we continue to monitor our progress on and report on an annual basis. I mentioned early on things about our renewable energy efforts, and we're excited to see what we can do more in Korea in that space as well. One of the things that I think 3M does really well is to advance this requirement that every new product we launch must have a sustainable development goal. So much advance how we offer products to our customers, help reduce the footprint both in our manufacturing and for our customers. And we're really proud of the successes that we have in those key areas. But there's other areas where we have more challenges, and I think it's only appropriate that we share the progress on all of them. So for example, our energy efficiency goal is one that we're behind on. While we're making really nice progress overall on our carbon footprint, energy efficiency should be one of the ways that we deliver really well, but it is a gap for us. Another area that we keep focusing on and working to improve is on our diversity in our management teams. We had set a goal in 2015 that by 2025, we would have doubled the diversity in our management. And, we found that some of our technical goals are actually much more attainable than some of those goals that really require human beings to modify our processes, to find people who are coming up through the ranks, to hire the right people, develop the right people. So we've shifted that goal to maturing from 2025, we pushed it out a few years to 2030. So we publicly share how we're progressing, whether it's our waste reduction and water reduction, where we're making solid progress, and our carbon footprint, where we're well ahead of that, in areas like diversity, where we're not quite where we want to be and where we need to be. I do think that these are collective things that we share. So I think that idea of science, of collaboration, of acting with urgency are things that we need to do within ourselves and working together. So thank you very much. thanks for the opportunity to talk a bit about our transparency, Jim, and we'll turn it over for another question or two.
Good. So Gayle, you mentioned something about the sustainability value commitment, and I didn't go into that much specific in our backgrounds, but Gayle and I had the same job at different times, and that was leading new products for our consumer business. And Gayle preceded me, and so she paved the way with a lot of good work for me to just follow on. But anyway, this idea of a sustainability value commitment, I think, is one specific product-oriented thing. So maybe we'll get back into some manufacturing and that sorts of sustainability. But I think this idea of embedding a sustainability value commitment into every product is was something big. I remember because I was Gayle was in this role, the chief sustainability officer role, and I was new products for our consumer business. And when 3M came up with this idea to embed a sustainability value commitment in every new product program, and I think it was unique, it was challenging, and impactful. And so maybe Gayle, if you could comment on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. So, so that was back, and we announced it at the end of 2018. We implemented it in 2019, and it was a really funny thing. Folks in Jim's role, I think there was this challenge, for all of us, was we want to do this, but how difficult is it going to be? And is it really possible? And it was really funny for me to work around the company and see that some groups felt like we've been doing this all along, whereas other groups thought, oh my gosh, this is impossible and it doesn't make sense. I need an exception. But it really was about how do we take our products to the next level? How every time we launch something, yes, we're going to launch something that's super cool and that helps advance and improve for our customers, but it has to improve on sustainability as well. June, if you can go to the next slide, I think it helps explain to people what the different types of sustainability value commitments are. Because what we know is that we make our biggest impact at 3M is what we do through our products. And I can only imagine that there's a number of great Korean companies or great companies from anywhere in the world. You talked about your partners with Dow and P&G that are doing similar things. But when you lean in, those footprints on any part of your sustainability footprint, those things that you do with your customers and that happen through your products, they make the biggest impact for the company, truly. So there's three different areas that we think about in sustainability value commitments. On the left, we see the ones that we do through our own products. These are things about how we replace materials with, in this case, recycled content. We help improve the footprint of an operation that we do ourselves, reducing our water footprint, improving the energy efficiency, reducing a carbon footprint. Those are really important things to do. But the fact is, on this slide, as you move to the right, you get bigger and bigger impacts. So the next one talks about sustainability solutions that help our customers reduce their footprint. This particular example is something that we do with the auto body shops. If you're repairing a car, or if you're manufacturing a car, that paint process is one of the heaviest footprints that you do from an environmental perspective. And 3M teams have really innovated around this paint application process and the paint preparation to help reduce physical waste, to help reduce solvent exposure, to help be safer for the workers and produce a better paint quality. It's really a fantastic thing, and that multiplies through. The examples on the right, this one that I'm highlighting here is one that's really unexpected. It's a business that we've been in since the 1940s about roofing granules. It stemmed from that first business where we had abrasives and we were putting particles on an adhesive backing. This is about particles that help protect a roof. And our scientists, after being in this business for decades and decades, realized that we had already done everything that the customers and consumers cared about, from protecting the roofs to looking good on roofs to all the different colors. But they realized what was happening in the conversations were much bigger. It was about the effects of urban heat islands. It was about having smog in the air. And they realized that by combining some of the technologies that were already in roofing granules with other technologies that we had across 3M, like coating technologies, they could reinvent the coating so that the roofs could be what my marketing colleagues like to call smog eating machines, where they would interact with the smog in the air to pull it out or to reflect the heat from an IR perspective. Really exciting stuff. So those are just some examples of ways that we bring in sustainability value commitments. There's a lot, we're much closer to the beginning than the end. Every product we launch does have a sustainability value commitment today, but our focus now is how do we make them bigger and better and more impactful. So thanks, Jim, for making the consumer business go even farther and faster while you were in that role before you came to Korea.
Yeah, thank you, Gayle. And I think that is one of those really unique things from my perspective anyway, that I understand that companies globally. I'm going to change course a little bit, maybe give Gayle a break and go to Jun with a question. And Gayle mentioned earlier, Jun, you mentioned renewable energy as an important source. Gayle talked about globally, we went from single digit to double digit sourcing, potential of renewables. In Korea, we are still very much on the low end of that. So Jun, maybe could you comment a little bit on as you think about renewable energy sourcing in Korea and your perspective there?
Yeah, like you mentioned, unfortunately, the Korea has no plan to install any renewable energy sourcing, like installing the solar panel rooftop and sourcing outside. But I'd like to share the existing status of renewable energy source in Asia manufacturing site. Through grid utility for the renewable energy, Sagamihara manufacturing site in Japan has been fully powered by renewable electricity since 2022, which generated positive financial impact and leveraged 3M initiative to the low carbon future. On top of that, the Tuas plant in Singapore has been operating solar panel system to create renewable energy since 2018 and reduce energy cost and carbon tax. Another manufacturing site in Singapore, Woodland manufacturing site, have a plan to install on-site solar panel in Q2 this year. And Thailand also installed the solar panel on the rooftop of one of the manufacturing site in Nagrabang to reduce the energy cost and the carbon emission with planning the solar energy panel. And India has also released solar panel installation on the rooftop as a pilot project last year. And Korea also has a plan to install the solar panel in our manufacturing site. So this year we will progress this installation of solar panel in our manufacturing site. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Jun. Maybe the first question, Gayle, and Jun, you might be able to comment on this from an Asia specific perspective as well. But one of the questions is, how is 3M taking the sustainability drive to bring its supply chain into compliance? And I think, I think maybe you've touched on some of those things. And if the person asking the question has more specifics, please follow up. But in general, Gayle, maybe, just talk about our approach from a supply chain perspective.
Yeah, this is always a journey and an opportunity and a challenge. We have a lot of activities that we have going on with our suppliers. We have a supplier code of conduct. We have expectations that we continue to raise with our suppliers, and my team works very closely with our sourcing team. We have a group within our sourcing organization that's specifically focused on sustainable sourcing and making key strides there. My counterpart in sourcing, or Jim's my counterpart in sourcing, is someone where we send out a letter to our suppliers on an annual basis, and then we work with them. We recognize them with awards for sustainability, supplier sustainability awards. We have had a number of different sustainability fairs in our headquarters, where we'll bring forward different types of suppliers who have more sustainable opportunities and materials and opportunities that they'd like to share with us. And so we have a supplier fair that's really focused on sustainability. One particular area that I'd mentioned that we do some pretty significant deep dive work with is in the area of pulp and paper. We have a pulp and paper sourcing policy. We work with we map out our different suppliers all around the world, and we work with them as far as making those commitments that I mentioned from that supplier expectations. But also we dig back into where are those pulp and paper sources coming from, first the mill, then the forest, then in some cases the types of trees and what geography exactly which forest they're coming from. So that's something that we do very actively. We partner with an organization called Earthworm, who helps us with the on-the-ground efforts to validate what we're hearing, and we work pretty extensively with extensive data analysis and efforts to make sure that we're doing the right things and that our suppliers are also committed to doing so. But Jun, if you'd like to talk specifically about some Korea examples, I'll save you some time for that.
From the Korea perspective, I had a meeting with the supply teams on a regular basis regarding this issue. Whenever they have a contract with the suppliers, they want to get a support from me regarding the supplier responsibility code. So as we are following the global guidelines to select our third parties in line with the SDGs.
Yeah, I think there's a follow-on question, June, which I think is not something that we absolutely know the answer to. So I'll ask the question, and then June or Gayle, I mean, I think it's a conversation that we continue to have, not just for us, but every company in Korea is faced with this question. So the question is regarding sustainable energy solutions. Is there any strategy to source in Korea to achieve the 3M goal? And I will start, because I've in a couple of opportunities that I've had to address audiences, I've stated that our goal of 100% renewable energy is a challenge in Korea, just based on supply, capability and capacity to supply. So if every company has that same goal, it's going to be a big challenge in Korea, because the availability is so low. Any comment from either of your perspectives? This wasn't something that we've rehearsed, but certainly.
No, it's not. But I will tell you that something that we work on in other geographies is partnering with other companies, whether they're our customers or our suppliers, on efforts to encourage and fund additions to the grid and renewable energy. So I don't know if there's any of the folks who work as part of AMCHAM Korea that would want to be partners on that, but I think that might be something that we could explore together.
Yeah, very good point. And I think, I take that, Gayle, and to this audience, I think there's probably some people, that would be interested in that. So follow up. I think, leveraging the experiences maybe that you've been able to see in other parts of the world is something that we would be very eager to try to see how we can replicate that. So thank you for that. You also mentioned, Gayle, you mentioned like partnering with Earthworm, and maybe from an audience perspective, just in general, so you can dig deeper on that. But to me, the question might be is, external, besides looking with other companies, but external kind of NGOs or other types of organizations, where do you think are the most, I have to be careful how I ask this for your sake, but what I want to say is, where the most beneficial, where do companies kind of find the most maybe actionable kind of organizations?
Yeah, I often say when you think about sustainability, there's three things to really keep in mind these days. And I talk about science, and I talk about urgency, and I talk about collaboration. It's certainly true in a circular economy where, what is a byproduct from one operation can be used in another. We do that within internally, but we are increasingly finding ways to do that with others. So those often are companies, and we'll take in materials that are recycled content from someone else, and they can take something from us. We're very, very early in that journey, I would say, but that's an opportunity for collaboration, definitely between companies. And also we've talked about customers and we've talked about suppliers. So those are some of the more obvious ones. But I think your point is about going deeper about what are those other collaborations that are helpful. And so I think that depends for each company to identify what is most material, what is most relevant for them. And we do that through our materiality studies and other efforts, of course. So when we set up our three pillars, we make sure that we have key partners to help make sure that we're looking at it from a really broad external perspective. So for example, in our circular economy pillar, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is a really great partner to help us make sure that we're always looking at what does it mean in the worlds of plastics and plastics waste. Also in the circular pillar, we've been really active to join a coalition to help advance the UN Treaty to End Plastic Waste. This is a great example, and if you all aren't aware, it's one to really look at, because the UN had the best intentions of bringing forward a new regulation around, or a new treaty around plastics waste, but there were some, I'm sure, unintended consequences that when you look at it from a corporate perspective, particularly a corporation that has plastics both in packaging and in our products, there were some things in the first revision that I'm sure they didn't intend, if we were to follow through on the letter of that regulation and treaty. So that's a really important kind of partnership for us, as well as in the circular economy. We have our water in that place, so we're active on the leadership committee for the Water Resilience Coalition. When it comes to climate, we have partnerships like the UNFCCC, we have partnerships like the RE100 and with the World Resources Institute, and many, many others. So I think it's important to see first, where are those natural business connections with other companies, whether they're up or down in your overall value stream. But then who are the leaders who are going to be most relevant for your space? Other companies that I spend time around, might pick organizations that bring forward the trade type of organizations, or they might bring forward something in agriculture or something in a specific industry like automotive. For us, we find that we have some of those really broader footprint things are most valuable for us, but there's many others. We do things in recycling partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of great groups out there, and they help you look at things from a little broader perspective. And one of the things that's kind of cool is they help you get good ideas for innovation as well.
Right. Cool. I have to admit, I was maybe on behalf of the audience looking for that silver bullet, that one organization, right? But I think I think you're absolutely right on, Gayle, in that you have to find something that matches.
Yeah, I will be a little bit shameless on this one. I do think that the United Nations Global Compact, the UNGC, is a really good organization. If you haven't joined that yet, there are fundamentally, there's 10 principles. This is the group that brought forward the Sustainable Development Goals. First, the Millennial Development Goals is what they were first. But this is a group that is from the United Nations, so it hits every country in the world. It hits every industry in the world. And that's one that's really about these 10 principles for sustainability and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that I think any company should take a serious look at. So that's one that maybe is more overarching than most. And then you can get into so many details from there. And there's so many great organizations to partner with.
Yeah, and I will take that, Gayle, thank you, and just maybe give a premature preview, but I think from an ESG, AMCHAM ESG Korea Committee perspective, we are trying to look at maybe, are there some organizations that we might be able to associate with and provide kind of that more holistic perspective? And RE100 is one that we have talked to, and I know I I endorse that because 3M has a relationship with them as well globally, and I think they're doing some good work here. So I will say, like I said, premature, more to come. Gayle, I one takeaway for me, and I've heard it before, but sometimes you hear it in different perspectives. This idea of science, urgency, collaboration as kind of a key takeaway, I think is something for all of us to just key in on and remember that it takes all of those to make a difference. Maybe I know we're running I think about to the end of our time, but I want to give maybe one more question to you, Gayle, and Jun, if you have an answer as well. But thinking externally, so not necessarily from an internal perspective and some of the challenges that you have, but from an external perspective, what do you think is maybe our one of our biggest obstacles that we have to overcome as a business community to really make the strides in sustainability that we need to?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
I think picking one is hard. I think right now we're at the easiest sustainability factor for companies to quantify right now. We're very good at quantifying our financials. Sustainability has so many different angles and so many different metrics that sometimes it's hard to really do that in a common way. But the carbon accounting has come a long way. So working on carbon footprint, a collective global challenge is really positive. I think that one thing we need to recognize is that science piece and that innovation that goes into it, this is reducing carbon footprint on a global basis is very predictable. It's something that is being regulated all around the world. So there's opportunities here, big, growing opportunities that I think it's important that corporations recognize and lean into. And that bit about collaboration, where if you don't have the capability within your own house, look around a little bit, because I bet even within AMCHAM Korea, there are some great opportunities to identify potential partnerships and identify ways that the superpowers, if you will, from one company could be relevant to help address a challenge. And if the superpowers, if you will, from the different companies come together, we can really get some big potential going. So I think how we do more of those and how we get past some of the traditional business challenges, I think is something that I find very exciting.
Yeah, cool, Gayle. Thank you. Your point is right, though. For all countries that have a carbon neutrality goal by 2040 or 2050, and you mentioned this earlier, the path with the math behind it, and I think that is something that we all have to really make that commitment to. Is okay, we have this goal out here, and we owe it to not leave it for somebody else, because I probably won't be in this job in 2050. You probably won't be in your job in 2050. But we have this responsibility to those that will be in these jobs in 2050 to get us to that point, because there will be new challenges that come up by that the next generation will need to be working on. So thank you for that.
Technologies brewing that we need to just get on it and start taking advantage of.
Yep, let's do something. Well, with that, thank you. I appreciate your time, Gayle. I appreciate your perspectives. I appreciate your kind of your insights and giving us some actionable things that we can take forward in Korea. So with that, I will say thank you, Gayle. Thank you, Jun, and turn it back over to Una and the AMCHAM Korea gang.
Thank you, Gayle. Thank you, Jun, for the very interesting presentation. Really learned a lot personally from the 3M strategy that drive is in sustainability and circular economy, goals through science and corporate governance. Really interesting points there. And thank you, Jim, as always, for moderating the session so expertly. And these are very useful best practices, and I'm sure a lot of lessons learned that we can all take with us in our businesses and even our personal lives. So thank you very much. FYI, we will have a recording of today's webinar available via our YouTube channel for your future reference, so keep in mind. And if you're interested in speaking at our future ESG Talk Series or have any questions regarding our ESG committee, please feel free to reach out to me or Jim. And with that, I'd like to thank again our speakers for today, and thank you all for joining us. Hope you have a great rest of the week. Thank you.